Welcome to the Scholars Chair. With us is Kaleema Overton Ameen, who has written a book entitled Hidden in Plain Sight. The book's focus question is a narcissist grooming you for love bombing, spirit breaking, and abandonment? Kaleema Overton Ameen. She is an author of a book entitled Hidden in Plain Sight. I want to ask you the first question, and it is, where did you get the inspiration for the title?
Well, the inspiration for the title came from the idea that some people who are out front publicly, maybe volunteering in the community, in the religious community, they're very front and center, that they're hiding a whole other life elsewhere. And so they're hiding in plain sight. And so
Gotcha.
that's what made me come up with that title.
So the sort of like a dual personality kind of
Absolutely. Living a
person.
double life. Yes.
Yeah. So it seems to me that your book is focusing on the narcissist or the narcissism. Could you tell me what our audience, what is narcissism?
Well, narcissism is a word that is overly used. I would have to say that first.
Mm.
Oftentimes, people, anytime they see any type of undesirable or bad behavior, they'll say that the person is narcissistic, but this is not likely the case. And narcissism is it's a person who is overly indulged in their own self importance, so much so that they totally dismiss even just the humanity of, just of other people. They totally dismiss the worth of other people and they feel like they can have what they want when they want it, no matter who has to suffer. And this is totally different from someone who just has bad behavior. The other thing with narcissism is that there will be no change. They have no inclination to change, no desire to change. They don't lean into change. Even when you point out how you're experiencing them in a negative way, a harmful way, a hurtful way, it doesn't matter. A person with bad behavior, once you point it out to them, they may make steps to change, to lean into therapy and counseling and things of that nature. So those are some of the, in a broad way, those are some of the big differences between a person with bad behavior and a person who has narcissistic behavior.
And a narcissist is a person who exhibits this kind of behavior. Um, uh, can you just define the narcissist for me? What
The
is?
individual,
Yes, the individual.
they will be totally self-absorbed and they will stop at nothing to have their way. If they're demeaning, diminishing, manipulating, abusing, and we have to look at abuse on a spectrum. Abuse is mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and they could also be legal abuse. And so the covert narcissist is always going to say, I didn't put my hands on you, male or female, I didn't abuse you, but they're going to redefine your definition of abuse so they can absolve themselves of any wrongdoing. But we have to look at abuse on a spectrum: mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and legal. And the narcissist will abuse people, everyone around them, their parents, their siblings, their children, the community. They will abuse everyone around them. And their main goal is to get whatever it is they want. And they always want self gratification, instant gratification in multiple areas of their life. And this is how they really go through life without any care or thought of anyone else.
That sounds like this personality. I'll be quite frank with you. I don't think I've actually met a narcissist. Maybe I'm one. What do you? Uh, tell me. You wrote this book for a particular purpose and for a particular audience. Um, why did you write the book to address people who find themselves a victim of the behavior of a narcissist?
Well, I unknowingly found myself a victim of narcissistic manipulation, abuse, and abandonment. And I had no idea, I didn't know anything about narcissism other than the malignant narc that we see, in politics and different places like that. That was the only reference I had to narcissism. And so the covert narcissist is the person that really aligns themselves with you. They infuse themselves within families, communities, religious organizations, and they are They walk the walk and talk the talk and look the part of a good and a safe person. They love to be in careers that give them power and a sense of safety. Let's say, for instance, if someone is, a psychiatrist. One of the people in my book was a psychiatrist. These are real people. It's not a novel. But a
Mm.
psychiatrist, you immediately think the person is safe. A doctor, a teacher, a principal, right? You immediately, clergy, you immediately say, I'm in a safe space, and you don't give it a second thought. So the covert narcissist, this is how they move. And so I found myself unknowingly in this position. We went on a family vacation, which was also our wedding anniversary. And we got there on a Friday night. Saturday morning, we're in our pajamas, all except for the narcissist. I don't know what's a narcissist at the time. And he has his suitcase packed and he says, I'm leaving. And he does just that. It just blew my mind. We were there for our anniversary vacation. It was a planned event. And this is another sign of the narc. They will always ruin any planned event, anniversary, birthday, holiday, it doesn't matter. And so he just left. And I didn't immediately, I had my son with me and my nephew. They're both teenagers. I didn't tell them what was happening. As mothers do and fathers do, I just carried on as if nothing had happened because I
Mhm.
didn't want to upset them. And I just told them he had an emergency and he had to leave. And we went on and finished the vacation. Well, by the time we got home, it was 8 hours away. All of his things were gone as if we had never been married. Now, I have to preface that with the entire marriage was in this cocoon of the narcissistic love bombing stage where everything is kind of like utopia like.
Right.
And then there was one week, that week prior, that everything was a problem. And at that time, I was taking care of my father. I had taken him into the home and he was terminally ill. And so I'm thinking, well, this is a really bad week, but the anniversary vacation is at the end of the week. Everything is kind of, boiling over. But thank goodness we have this vacation coming up. And so I don't even know what's happening. I don't know that all of this had been planned. And I didn't find this out until during the divorce depositions that it was clear that the person, no one could figure out, the attorneys, how did this person get back? Well, the person rented a car before we even left home, rented a car to come back, and the car was waiting at the place.
Um,
So I found myself in this position, which led me, I didn't initially intend to write a book. I'm a federal policy analyst by profession. I've been doing the same thing for 30 years. And I decided to just do some research, I thought, on how do families get abandoned?
mm,
What families are abandoned more? Muslims, Christians, Catholics, African American, South American, or Caucasian? And I just started reading about it. And this led me right into this narcissism because the narcissist is the only personality type that can just walk away from the family or unalive the whole family without a second thought. This is the very key to narcissistic behavior. And when you think about that on the spectrum, you have the covert narc, the one I described, the malignant, very rude, openly abusive. And then you have the serial killer, which at the core is a narcissist. And this is the same behavior. So this is how I came to write the book pretty much by happenstance, just researching and it just kind of ballooned from there.
that's interesting. I've just recently heard a psychologist say that when you when you identify a narcissist, that you really cannot set your personal agenda to try to change them. It says that it's best to let them live and not be associated with them. Do
Absolutely.
you agree with this?
Absolutely. And psychologists and the experts in the field agree that the narcissist is the hardest personality type to treat. They didn't say,
Mm.
that all these other deviant behaviors, it's the narcissist because the narcissist would try to groom the psychologist. And if they can't groom them, they will try to deem them incompetent. If they can't convince you that they're incompetent, they're going to say you're a fool for going to therapy. So it's just around and around. There's no repairing the narc. And that's the difference between the person with bad behavior. They will lean into therapy. If you tell them, I'm experiencing you this way, they may change or they may say, oh, I didn't realize that this is how I grew up. I didn't know that this was inappropriate behavior. Let me stop doing that. That's the person with bad behavior. But all of it is hinged on the frontal lobe and the development of the frontal lobe that covers critical thinking, empathy, risky behavior. And so it's a developmental thing as well. And the narcissist has a diminished frontal lobe. If you look at the brain scans between the narcissist and a normal person, you won't even see the same activity in the frontal lobe.
Mm.
And so they're absolutely correct when they say don't try to change them. You can't. The psychologists can't even change them. It's above our pay grade. So the best thing we can do is to protect ourselves and to move as far away as we can.
That's fascinating. Yeah, this is very fascinating because I think this is the first time that I've actually dealt with this subject on the Scholars Chair. It's because
Oh,
you were writing this topic. And that is a very interesting topic. Um, Tell me about the 9 steps of novice and Knox behavior, as you were saying, and a novice's behavior. See, it's so new to me, I can barely say the word.
yes. Well, there are 3 steps and there's 9 red flags. And so the 9 red flags are some of the things, excuse me, that you commonly see in people when they're talking about love bombing. They're going to be quick to just really infuse themselves in your life. They're going to talk about love and marriage very much like immediately.
Too
They're
early.
going to, while they're doing this with you, they're going to really suck in everyone around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, your religious community, because they're covering all of the safe spaces that you have, and they want to compromise them. They're going to really not be open to any type of even constructive criticism. Something as simple as, hi dear, let's go left instead of right because there's a lot of traffic that way, will really set them off. And it may not even set them off immediately. The covert narc is going to hide it and smile through it and punish you later. So you're going to see this give and take kind of behavior. You're going to see where they're constantly flooding you with love and attention and gifts, you and your family. They're constantly being available. They're constantly putting you on a pedestal, even to the point where it can become embarrassing. And I was experiencing that, but I didn't know what it was. I would just say, don't point out, it was good things, but it would embarrass me because it's causing all of this unnecessary attention. But for the narcissist, it's double edged because the narcissist will put a lot of attention on you, really to get attention for themselves, and also to make people dislike you. Nobody likes a person in the room that someone's constantly bragging on. So it covers 2 areas for the narc to compromise you with everyone around you. So you'll see this type of behavior, and then eventually you'll see some abusive behavior. And then when you point it out, they're going to go back to the love bombing, or they're going to say that it's your fault. There's never going to be an idea of, we can have some conflict resolution. You can't have conflict resolution with a person who sees no wrong in what they do.
I
So
see.
these are some of the things that you will see.
So a narcissist is thinks of himself as being above the average person, and all is right in the world for the narcissist, but everyone else is slightly below them or slightly below.
Absolutely.
Boy,
Absolutely.
boy, I tell you,
The
that's
narcissist sees themselves as the smartest person in the room,
smart.
always. And I remember the person used to say that to me, but they would be talking about other rooms that they were in. Well, I don't know any better, of course. So I have to assume that they would say that, elsewhere. But I recall that the person would say that a lot about being the smartest person in the room, but I don't know about the signs of an arc.
So
And so, yeah.
you hadn't done your research yet.
I
So
didn't know anything about it. I thought I was living in a utopia yeah, I was living in this utopia, right?
I appreciate that. Tell me about the 8 steps of recovery.
Okay, well, as I mentioned, I'm a federal policy analyst, and what I do all day is analyze policies and procedures from end to end. We find the holes and gaps, everything from astrophysics to cancer research,
Mm-hmm.
and we create a corrective action plan.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than just reinventing the wheel, I decided to analyze the policy and the procedure of the narcissist. And I had the 9 red flags that were developed from the interviews with women from my book and my own experience. And then the 8 steps to recovery are really the corrective action plan. And so we have to really think about recovery holistically, because anytime someone has, a traumatic experience, they really kind of go to the most egregious injury first. If you had a broken leg from an accident, they're going to attend to the broken leg. But they also have to go back and attend to your spiritual, your emotional, and financial injury from the leg. But what we typically do is we repair the leg and we keep walking. And we're carrying all of this other damage all of these other bumps and bruises that have not been addressed, and we drag them throughout our life. And so the 8 steps of recovery cover mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and legal recovery from the narcissist. And so I actually have a plan where people can actually create this work plan where they cover all of these areas, and they create a goal, they create the steps, and they actually develop a support system, whether it's family, the friends, the community, or professionals in the field, and they can work through every step of this plan to make sure we can get the best holistic recovery from narcissistic abuse.
Tell me about how religion can help or harm you in this recovery.
It's definitely a double-edged sword. I think with the covert narcissist, especially because they like to infuse themselves, the covert narcissist knows all religions.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. And they don't care about religion. Religion is just another tool to groom. And so it's a double-edged sword because if you are in a religious community, whether you're Muslim, Christian, Catholic, Jewish, whatever, you're all religious communities are promoting marriage, and they should.
Mhm.
But the problem is that the narc is there.
Mhm.
Okay. And they're promoting quick marriage and short courtship. Well, this is beneficial to the narc.
Mhm.
And so we have to really train people how to avoid that narcissistic trap because the narcissist is on a timeline. It's like a ticking clock. They have about 90 days from the day they meet you to get you completely infused in their life or to completely buy what they're selling, that they're a good and a safe person. They have about 90 days to do that because they have a short attention span. But when you think about in Islam, typically 90 days to 6 months is the length of the courtship. But this is problematic if you don't have people around you who understand how to look out for the narcissist. And even if you're Christian or whatever the case may be, you're going to have a short courtship. So you can either think about making sure you have a third party that's not compromised. One of the ladies in my book, she did have a third party, but the third party had been compromised by the narcissist. And he
Mhm.
was a psychiatrist, the narcissist. And he compromised her wakil
I see.
because he groomed him too into feeling like he was a safe person. And so now the pressure is off, right? And
Mhm.
so that's one option, but you have to make sure that this person is totally out of reach of
Mhm.
the narcissist or extend the courtship because after a while, the narcissist will quickly become frustrated and they will move on to the next target because they're looking for something that's always going to be a quick end to this life. They need the normal people so they can look normal. So you
Mhm.
will find the covert narc always trying to get married because they need to set up shop. They need to show I'm a husband or I'm a wife. I have a home. I have children. I have a career. I go to church, to the mosque, to the synagogue. I'm a safe person. And this is all a facade. So we're a beard for the narc.
That's really quite scary.
Very.
uh,
Yes.
how does the victim use the concept of God to save themselves? Is that possible?
Absolutely. And in my book, I do have lots of scriptures from the Quran. I
Yeah.
have ayats from the Bible. I mean, ayats from the Quran and scriptures from the Bible. And wherever I have one, I put them side by side to show how both religions actually show you how to protect yourself from the jinn, from those dark forces. And it shows you how to recover your life, restore your life,
Mhm.
through faith. And so I actually go through all of those steps in the book as well because we really have to be able to lean into, even if someone who doesn't prescribe to any organized religion, you have to be able to lean into something higher and bigger than yourself and the narc for
Yeah.
your support system because the narc is going to continuously try to break down any type of support that you are able to garner, whether it's at home, at work, at school, in the psychiatric community, in the religious community. So we really have to arm ourselves, with faith and intention. And patiently persevering does not mean sitting still. Patiently persevering is hard work. And so we have to do the hard work to protect ourselves from this type of behavior by learning about it
That's
and
you know
following those steps.
why it's so fascinating is that I think that I'm 71 years old, and I think this is that I have just known this concept within a month, the narcissist. And and I'm not sure if I've ever met a personality like this or not. I had to go back and research, but but it's very interesting because I think the personality is one that you need to avoid at pretty much all costs. Tell me if my wife comes home, or or someone's husband comes home traumatized. How do you help your spouse through this external attack?
That's a great question, and I don't think anyone has ever asked me that question before. It's a great question because when we're talking about this narcissistic abuse, although my book covers the abuse within the marriage or in relationships, narcissistic abuse can occur anywhere, at home, at work, at church, in the community. And
Yeah,
so we really have to understand that, yes, your spouse can come home suffering from narcissistic abuse, and it's not from within the home.
right,
You know, I know people who are suffering from that on their jobs because guess what? Narcs have jobs too. They go somewhere off to work and they're somewhere abusing someone at their job, abusing someone in the community, abusing someone in the religious community, you know, while they're out there. And so you may come across that. And so the way you have to, what you can do to assist your spouse is to make sure that you're really being open to what they're saying because it's always going to sound so grandiose. It's always going to sound unbelievable, and you're likely to dismiss it and say that the person is being dramatic or they're being overly sensitive. And this is what the narcissist wants you to think. I remember when I was talking to the therapist and I said, well, I should just be lucky that I didn't wake up with a pillow over my face. And she said, oh, yeah, that type is the one that would take the family away on vacation and nobody comes back but the narcissist. And so even though I was being very grandiose in my proclamation, she's like, no, this happens all the time. And so we have to really, when people are telling us what they're experiencing, we have to really have empathy, which is what the narc doesn't have understanding and really listen to what they're saying and what they're experiencing and help them take the steps to go no contact. And that's the main thing. But sometimes, let's say if the narcissist that they're encountering is their supervisor at work or a parent, siblings, they may not be able to go no contact. So then they can go low contact. And that means only necessary communication and not exposing your emotions to that person because it's the kill shot when it comes to the narcissist.
yes. You're a very good writer, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. I
You
appreciate that.
you have written in your book. I uncovered a diabolical process that can be a gateway to family dysfunction and economic hardship. Uh, Please explain.
Yes. So when we're talking about all of the different levels of abuse, the primary thing that you're going to see is that financial abuse. The narcissist has to really stop your movements. And if you don't have financial freedom, you don't have the freedom of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's
Right.
all taken away from you, really. The narcissist is an oppressor, right?
Yes.
You know, the Honorable Marcus Garvey said, you know, when you stand upright, those riding your back will fall it will scream as they fall from their place of comfort. Well, he was talking about the oppressive system, but the narcissist is an oppressive system. Mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and legal oppression. That financial piece is the one that people overlook because it will cripple you immediately. It could cripple your children, even your grandchildren are suffering from the financial neglect that came from narcissistic abuse 2 or 3 generations back.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have to financially empower our daughters, our sons, our mothers. We have to make sure that people have financial freedom because this is the thing that even no matter how much you want to free yourself, this will be the thing that will hold you hostage. And even when you are free, it will take you years to recover financially because when you're thinking about if you have a lease, if you have a mortgage, you have retirement, you have, you know, property, you have your job, you have all these things tangled that are tied into this relationship, and your financial freedom and your financial recovery are going to be the hardest and longest journey in that fight.
Yes, yes, of course, it makes good sense. And then, of course, you recommend that one seeks a professional to help that process, legal and financial, etc.
Yes, I actually recommend in the process to look first in your immediate circle. Like for myself, I decided I need to make some some really risky financial moves, right? And
Sure.
but I have an aunt who's retired from the banking industry, and she helps people who are first time home buyers. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to look for a real estate agent or a financial planner. I'm going to call my auntie, which is what I did, and say, "Hey, I have this plan. What do you think about my plan?" So I encourage people to first look in your circle for people who can help you in whatever it is, if it's financial, spiritual, mental, psychological,
Mhm.
whatever the case. Look in your immediate circle for people who are still trusted, because the narc is going to compromise a lot of people. Look there first before you start shelling out money, right?
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of the 8 steps to recovery are from the experiences of the women that I interviewed in the book, as well as myself. And that was a real life experience. I called my aunt. I'm not calling a financial planner or a real estate agent to do
Mm.
what I need to do. I gave her the plan, and she says, "Yes, it's risky. If it works, it's going to be great. If it doesn't, I'm like, yeah, I took the risk and it worked."
Yes. It's fascinating that you write the way you write. The Hidden in Plain Sight is a book that could help a lot of people heal. And and that's you know if a person is in this traumatic situation with a narcissist and reading your book, how would it help them transform? Just I'm putting your book on final display here because I want people to be aware of what you're talking about. Please explain to us how does one seek justice and strive from the trauma of all of this.
Okay. Well, I think that within the confines of my book, I hope and pray that people get the healing that and the empowerment that I felt writing it. I hope I put it, all into the book. I think that people can actually. I met a lady at an event, and she was still so traumatized. She was afraid to read the book, and
Mm,
I said to her, "Start in the middle, because the middle is where the recovery piece." The first half of the book is talking about the pathology and what you should look for. That would have been more traumatizing to her to read it, because she already went through it. She had just come out of it.
I see.
So I told her, start in the middle with the recovery so you can feel empowered. I said, but you must go back and read the other part so you don't fall into the trap again, because you will meet another narc. That's how the universe works. You
Yeah.
will meet another narc, and you will keep, until you learn the lesson, right? So I think that learning how to empower yourself, to not feel shame, to learn that it's not your fault, this is the biggest takeaway I think that I would like for people to take away from the book.
Mm,
Because if you can walk through life empowered, knowing that, because the narcissist is not going to give you closure, because they want this to hang on your back for
yeah.
the rest of your life. And you have to free yourself of it by understanding that the narcissist, wherever they are today, they're doing the same thing to somebody else. It's not your fault. And for me, it was a quicker recovery because I had an opportunity to actually sit and have tea with a previous victim of the narcissist.
Mm,
And until then, I still was thinking it was my fault. Like, I don't know what I did, but it must be something. Like, who does that? Who leaves their family on a vacation? But when she unfolded for me what she experienced from that person, it
mm,
was identical.
I
There
see.
was nothing different.
Wow.
And so and she told me, she said, it has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
Imagine that. She said, it has nothing to do with you. And this person had done the same thing. She she described coming home, and the person said, it was in reverse. "I want a divorce. You got to get out." And she's put out of the home. And
Mm,
she doesn't know where the person went until she sees me on social media. Well, not me. She sees a social media post of our wedding.
aha.
Right? And so sitting
Interesting.
and talking with her, it just really hit me. People need to know that this is how they move, and it's not your fault. Had I not had that conversation, my recovery would have taken probably a lot longer. So I
So
just wanted other people to know, like, look, you have to understand it has nothing to do with you. This is what they do,
so
you know?
this is a book that help the victim to from remove themselves from victimhood, basically,
Yeah,
and remove the blame and shame from the association. Uh,
right.
marvelous intellect you are, and
Oh,
I'm
thank
so
you.
glad that I had the opportunity to interview you for the Scholars Chair. It is a very unusual topic, but very meaningful. And so thank you very much taking time to be with us.
Thank you so much. I feel honored to be here. I definitely feel honored getting the invitation.
Oh,
And I hope that, the information that I have provided is helpful to someone and that people can really get a full healing and just thrive. You can thrive after this type of abuse.